Happy Monday, everyone. Welcome back to Inside the Lines. The NBA playoffs play-in, I should say, is officially here. We're going to go through a lot of these play-in games, talk a little bit about projections here, get ahead of some of these player prop lines that have already started steaming from this morning. We're going to try to get ahead of what we need to get ahead of here. A lot of those star players with their lines already inflating here. So we're going to get to that. Before we do that, we're going to hit some baseball for sure here. We'll bring Jake in here. We're going with the MLB. Let's talk about the MLB season. How's it been going, Jake, so far? How are we doing here?
I mean, my Yankees have been pretty good. They should have swept Derek's Guardians yesterday, but they blew it in the 10th inning, so that was rough. But my Yankees have been good, so the reverse jinx on their win total is looking good. But also the other future plays that have been looking good. I know right now the Yankees are winning division, but we still have a really good value on the Orioles, and they're at plus 275. So now they're 9-6. They just got up the number one prospect in baseball, Jackson Holiday, and now's probably a good time to buy low because the Yankees are going to get hurt because every player in their lineup's 35 years old, and we've seen all these pitcher injuries. So now it might be a good time to buy the Orioles at plus 275 to win the AL East. But everything else, I mean, these pitcher injuries are pretty crazy. I know Tyler Glass now said he thinks it's because it dates back to the sticky stuff being taken away. And all these guys still trying to throw hard, and they have no grip on the ball, and their elbows are just going. So injuries are definitely going to play a big part. So maybe this is the good time to take all the underdogs you can because there's going to be some major injuries.
What's most important is the Senior Executive Fantasy League, AL only. DH is a position league that I pay for and Jake manages is 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
So
look at that teamwork.
And I figured Wyatt Langford, my boy Wyatt Langford, Florida Gator, he is become DH eligible. So I was thinking away because we were playing Ryan Noda because some of our guys are on the IL to start the season. But I found out that Wyatt Langford is DH eligible, so I put him in the DH. Was able to put Colton Cowser into our starting lineup, so it's looking even better now. We've outscored everyone by a far amount. I think it would be 18-2 if we played everyone in the league.
I don't like it when we when we have our projected stats that we power and then Jake goes against them. I was like, that's not how it's supposed to work. We're just supposed to.
Nonetheless, all I hear is our team is hitting dingers. That's what we love to hear. All right. Well, we talked about the Orioles here. Steven, I'll send you to the chat to answer any early playoff questions we have. We'll talk about those Orioles you were mentioning, who, again, buy low while you can. We had better value when we did our future show weeks ago, but still good value to get them now. Let's talk about them tonight versus the Twins.
Yeah, minus 130. It's Cole Irvin versus Louis Varland. I'm surprised it's minus 130 in favor of the Orioles because the Twins are really banged up right now. Carlos Correa is on the IL. Royce Lewis got hurt the first game of the season. Kepler's on the IL as well. So I'm pretty surprised that it's just minus 130. I guess the Orioles haven't been great at home. I think they're just one game above 500 at home. They weren't particularly good last year, but the Twins were 500 on the road last year. So getting them at minus 130 is pretty good value. I don't love the Cole Irvin matchup, but I like the Orioles bats and that they're at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's being bad at home is a trend I'm willing to fade in the good name of.
Especially this early in the season.
Yeah. Right. And if that's it, then I can take that. I'll eat that. All right, let's move on to some props here. We'll go over to the Braves. Going to Ronald Acuna to have a stolen base. We've been on this. It still seems like there's good plus money value here. Is this a he's due situation? Has he not really had one recently?
Yeah, so, of course, the day after we had him, I think he had 3 stolen bases the next game.
It's giving O'Neal Cruz home run.
Yeah, exactly. O'Neal Cruz home run, and then then I think the day after we had Jordan Alvarez in the Bryce Harper parlay, I think he over 2 times. So that was rough as well. So, of course, if we play it today, he's going to have 4 stolen bases tomorrow. But we set this line at plus 106, which is pretty crazy. A lot of that has to do with Yainer Diaz. Houston's catcher is really bad against catching base stealers. I think he's 0 for 9 this year. And so 100% success rate for these stolen bases against him, which puts him dead last in the league. He is a great offensive catcher, just not a great defensive catcher. And so this is a really good matchup, especially there's a rookie on the mound, Spencer, I think it's pronounced Arrighetti, for Houston. And Kansas City ran all over him in the 3 innings that he pitched in his major league debut last Wednesday. So you're getting good value at plus 182.
Dang. Love to see it. This is his time. Let's go over to another player prop here, heading over to the Texans. I believe the Texans are playing very soon. Playing the Tigers.
Texas, not Texan. It's the Rangers. It's the same thing. If I get them all mixed up. It's like Steven has the players imprinted on where they first began their career. Everything gets jumbled when you're in this industry.
Exactly. Or I also have a hard time when I'm talking about the Bucks, NBA Bucks versus NFL Bucks, who gets the C or who gets the K, who doesn't get the K. Sometimes I have to take a second there.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
As well, and also, I mean, Pittsburgh, their nickname is the Bucks too in baseball. So it's like it's not really their team nickname, but that's what they go as. But so it gets confusing. Everything gets confusing there. But Evan Carter, going back to the play, he is 11-3 on the season. I think he's hitting like 220 of the season, and his hits, runs, and RBIs is 11-3. So I like this play a lot, especially. It's a good matchup for him and everyone else on their team. Like the top guys like Semien and Seager, their line's 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. And we have Carter projected for 2. He just gets on base, even though he doesn't necessarily have a high average. And when he gets on base, he scores runs. So I don't mind. I think it's like plus 115 for Carter to score a run. I think we have value on that play as well. But I'm going with hits, runs, and RBIs because even the games where he has gone hitless, he's had 2 runs scored. In some games, he's had 2 hits and no runs scored and no RBIs. So it's 11-3 on the season. He's done it in a variety of ways.
Oh, yeah. All right. So a couple of ways to play this. This might be your best value here over at DK at -120. We'll move on to one more play here. Shooting for the fence, swinging for the fences, I should say, a little more here. Going to Mookie Betts for the Dodgers to have a home run at +340.
Yeah, this is more of a he's due situation. Betts started the season, I think, with 5 home runs in his first 6 games. And he has 1 home run since then, and it came a couple of games ago. But another game where it's a really good matchup for him going against a pitcher for the Nationals who is making his major league debut, and it's a left-handed pitcher as well. Just a matchup situation and being due, kind of like this play altogether. +340. I was surprised it's not like +250, but I guess he's only had 1 home run in his last 10 games.
Quick question for you, Jake, from the chat. I don't know if you saw a lot of the money has moved to the Tigers over the Rangers. Any idea what that would be because of?
Let's see. Let me check the database on that. Lineups. So that's a 640 game. Maybe there's a lineup, someone scratched from the lineup, but it's looking like Wyatt Langford was scratched from the lineup. Looks like. So Jankowski's hitting 4th. It looks like they just don't have their full lineup for Texas, so that's probably the major reason. And yeah, it's Michael Lorenzen's debut. So and Reese Olson's much better at home than he is on the road. So all those factors kind of playing this. I still we have a lot of model value, and I still don't mind the play of the Rangers on the money line.
All right. Model says what the model says. All right. That's enough baseball for today. Any other questions, we'll certainly answer in the chat. We're going to head over to the NBA playing games. We'll bring in Steven here. We'll take a look at some of these projections that we have. We'll talk about more props tomorrow. We'll certainly start with some things we want to act now on today. Now, Steven, do you want to talk about LeBron James today? Because it doesn't seem like the line's necessarily steaming, but maybe to
yeah, I'm genuinely surprised. Yeah, I thought that this was one that was sure to go up. When I saw 26.5 at -122 this morning, and then now I see 26.5 -105, -110. I'm seeing 25.5 -125. So I was wrong. It didn't steam up, but I still think it's going to go up. But
okay,
yeah, I guess it's not urgent.
Yeah, not urgent. We'll address it tomorrow as well, but we'll move to some that we do feel are urgent. And I've seen this move myself. Rory Hachimura, originally at 12.5, I believe it's up to 13.5 on most books now, and at around -120.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense because she's been a good month now at the 17-point per game score, and the over is 12-3 this last month. So, Anthony Davis, not surprisingly, had some kind of back strain at near the end of the game on Sunday. So, and then more importantly, the guys, Jared Vanderbilt and Christian Wood, other backup bigs who have been out for a while. I don't see any definitive word that they're going to be back. So Hachimura, and he stepped up big in some of those Denver playoff games last year, so he's played better in the playoffs, and they just need his size and athleticism against the Pelicans. So it's not only Zion's bulk, but also, their shooting guards and small forwards are also 6'9", 6'10" guys.
Mm-hmm. And not to mention, he's just been objectively hitting these overs. I mean, he's averaging 17 points in his last 17 games. Even in his past 10, he has some strong value here. He's just been.
And you get a nice little buy low because he only had 11 on Sunday.
Love that.
So another he's due.
He is due. All right, let's move to the Pelican side of the ball here. Zion Williamson here. Another guy. You don't want to overthink this here. He's been hitting his overs. He's had a strong month here. And this line started at 22.5, and I'm seeing it now closer to 24.5 on some other books. So this is definitely an act now. Yeah,
and he was only 22.5 at -102 when it opened on FanDuel. So even on FanDuel, I think it's gone up 1, if not 2 full points, and then even with the juice. So because Zion, one thing you noticed recently is, besides all the overall trends, including the season trend would point over. But, people pointed out that he struggled mightily against the Lakers. But the last 3 times he's struggled, he's been playing very well for the last several months. He had 4 points recently, and he followed it up with a 36-pointer. He had 14 points, followed up with a 36-pointer. In one game, he had 8 points, and while he only had 16 the next night, he was on 7 for 11 shooting in like 26 minutes in a 30-point win for the Pelicans, where he didn't have to play barely in the second half. So he's responded well. And I think that with this being his first playoff-ish type, postseason type game, that you'll see the best out of him.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good buy low spot as well. And you can tell that the public, or maybe just the money in general, is on that. So it feels like we're on the right side of this here. All right. Any other questions about this game? Feel free to ask them. I know Austin Reeves and Trey Murphy, my 2 favorite player prop guys, both in this game. I'm going to have to make some decisions tomorrow. Maybe the 3 of us can have a nice competition through these playoffs again, with having keeping track of some props that we pick. But nonetheless, let's move on here to the Warriors headed to the Kings. Now, we did like the Warriors always originally. However, Gary Payton the second, not junior. What's the difference there? Is it just
preference? It sounds more regal. Yeah, I think so. I think it's biologically the exact same thing, right? But
anyway, now that he is officially out, we don't like Gary Payton, so he actually being out helps the Warriors apparently in our mind.
So I started our little pre-show call telling Mackenzie, is like, hey, for some reason, I don't know why, my model had Golden State going from -1 favorite to a -4 favorite. And then Derek pointed out that Gary Payton is ruled out, and that was it. And not that Payton's bad, and Payton's certainly a good player. He had some great moments when they won the championship a few years ago, but just purely statistics-wise, they have this year a number of players who are better pure shooters. Pajamski, Kuminga now, and even Wiggins playing well, and Clay's been tearing it up. And then, he's not going to be the rebounder that some of the other guys on the team are either. So his tough perimeter defense, which doesn't necessarily always jump out at you statistically, isn't outweighing the fact that. So in our model, they're better off for this matchup without him.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's take a look at one of his teammates here. We're going to Steph Curry. This line's already steamed up a lot too. Pays to pay attention early. Steph Curry now. The line now is 10.5 for his rebounds and assists. Open at 9.5. The model would take it up. Model makes it 11.2. So I'd say we still have some slight value here. But aside from the model, I mean, his road splits have just been awesome. Yeah,
it's like he's averaged, from percentage wise, 15% more rebounds and assists on the road. The over is well over 50%. So it's just, not quite sure. It looks like he tends to share the ball more and works hard. In the road, and the rebounding is interesting because, last year when he was playing more minutes and had a different role, he averaged close to 6 rebounds a game. And the playoffs, I think that you're going to see a similar spike. So the line at 9.5 was priced based on his season average, but this situation is going to be higher than that. So before his 9 on his last game on the 12th, he had 15, 11, 12, and 14. So he's been coming in with a lot of rebounds and assists. Yeah, this is a play we've kind of had success with. This versions of this play all season, it feels like, on the road, whether it just be assists, rebounds, or the combination of both. We'll head over to Sacramento here, looking at Sabonis.
looking at a lot of stars here, but you know what? Those are the lines that end up steaming because everyone's on them. So we want to get them early. Let's look at Sabonis to go over 17.5 points. I believe that has been holding pretty steady, but who knows by 5 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah, the juice may have gone up some, ticked up. Look, this is still he's an interesting guy because it's like he seems to score 14 or 15 or 24. And Jake was mentioning like a good better value might be an alt 20 that he's gonna go. He's probably not gonna finish with 17.
Yeah, because he averages 17.7, but the over is 9 and 5, and so it's like either scores 24 or 12
against Golden State. Yeah, and then so I just think that he did struggle, especially to start that series last year. Draymond was really at his head. Then Draymond stomped on his chest, and then Sabonis had some big performances. I think he's gonna. I have a feeling that he's not gonna shrink this time. I think he's gonna get some revenge on that stomping on the chest thing.
Right. Jake was mentioning the chat worth going back to real quick. That's Steph Curry 10.5. You can actually get at a better price now on FanDuel and DraftKings, a little closer to even money. So maybe you think this could steam back to the 9.5?
No, I think
just get it at a good 10.5 while you can.
I think I have just gotten so damn good at NBA. I'm just steaming lines, and you can't. Don't let the numbers fool you. Don't let the numbers on YouTube fool you. There's way more than 30 people watching 40. There's got to be at least 20,000 people. So, yeah.
All right.
They're just on the dark web, and they don't have their tracking.
Well, we got our DraftKings bots in here. We learned that
exactly. Yeah.
Next pick. All right. Question on Sabonis here. Any value on him to have a triple double? Wonder what that.
What's the number?
Is.
Plus 280 is the best on FanDuel.
Yeah, I mean, I think his double is a lock. We have 22 points and 13.5 rebounds. So for him to get that's if you put that at say a 90% level, 80% level conservatively, then we have 8.7 assists. So that would be around 40, a little over 40%. So you multiply, it's like you got, it's 35% ish, I would say.
And it's plus 280 on FanDuel, but every other book it's like plus 190, plus 205, plus 190 on Caesars, plus 205 on DK, plus 200 on ESPN.
So jump off FanDuel right now. I would do that right away.
Exactly. I think that's going to go away. That'll probably go to minus plus 210 probably by the end of the night.
All right, DK. Act now. That's where you're going to get him. Surprised.
DK's been doing those quirky things, like this morning when I was putting together some numbers, I noticed that the implied probability of all the Dallas win series numbers added up to 49%, but the line was minus 110. So they had adjusted the series line before they adjusted those individual prices. And then just as I was about to press send on my email to the wider group, they adjusted their win in 6 and win in 4 numbers. So
just got to keep catching them. We got to keep catching them on their toes.
In an effort to be first and get the most action, they're sometimes putting out some soft lines.
Right. Let's talk about a few players here in this game. Andrew Wiggins, someone that we've been on a decent amount the second half of the season. Do you see him having a good game here?
I do. We're projecting overs for his PRA. His best values that I can see. Again, I'm avoiding the blocks because I stink at those. We like his assist line quite a bit, at 2 assists in the projections and just 1.5 at fair juice. We like his points over. We got 1 point of value, not great. We don't like his rebounds. Now, years past, 2 years ago when they won the championship, he really focused on his rebounding for a stretch and was an 8.5, 9 rebound player when they needed it. But I haven't seen that recently from him. So points and assists is where we like Wiggins the most. Yeah, he hasn't been tearing it up on the boards.
Okay. Good to know here. We will move on to another game. We're not looking at any player props here, but the model seems to love Chicago in this spot, hosting Atlanta here. I believe, line's 3. We make this a 9-point game.
Yeah, we love Chicago. I mean, I do think if Chicago played 44-minute games, they'd probably be, a top 4 seed because it seems like they're, especially in big matchups like the one on Sunday against New York. And last year in the play-in, they had Miami down by 5, I think, with 2.5 minutes left, was it? They had the game kind of in hand. But this is also a fate of Atlanta. Atlanta's really stumbled down the stretch, showed they're 1-6 against the spread in the last 7. The one cover was a 11.5 point underdog. They still lost that game against Minnesota, who's also struggling. Trae Young's back, but if Trae's not at least 40% on 3, he's going to hurt you, right? and his defense isn't there. All the stats would show that the team's better with Trae Young without Murray or Murray without Young. They don't need them both. Jalen Johnson, who had a great year, he's out. Sadiq Bey, who's a valuable rebounder as a two shooting guard, small forward, he's been out for a while. So they were riding for a hot stretch that a rebounding advantage, but that's gone away, and they got crushed in that blowout loss on Sunday to Indiana. But they've been losing on the boards 3 of the last 5 games, and without this steady shooting, then they're done. I think Trae's, people were giving him credit for a few years ago when he torched the Knicks and they went all the way to the conference finals, but I think that's a kind of a long time ago. And Derek has pointed out maybe it's the Hawks' success in the play-in.
True. As a Sixers fan, I do myself remember being burned by the Hawks in the playoffs. Thank you, Ben Simmons, for literally nothing.
That's right. Oh, that was the pass. That was the pass instead of a layup.
Yes. Yes. Are we waiting on, this is more of a hypothetical question from just the audience, are we waiting on any injury reports for these player props at all? Or is this...
For this game? No, it's just there wasn't a lot of value. I mean, Io DeSumo, who's missed some games to end, he was playing for Chicago. He's been playing like 40 minutes, close to 40 minutes. He hasn't played his last 4, and I don't know what his status is. So we don't have an over for Caruso's PRA, but we probably will if that comes out. DeRozan we like, but the odds makers also love because he's been on a tear. So his line was really high for points. So even though we're projecting 28 points for him, I don't think we have an over. So and the other,
we'll pick it apart tomorrow too.
Yeah. Clint Capella has a high PRA, but again, I shouldn't have said that name because it doesn't exist. It's a non-entity, Clint Capella. Yeah, so somebody named Clint Capella has a line.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on then to Miami headed to Philadelphia. Not too much steam really here for the game as a whole. Miami 4.5-point dogs on the road in this spot. But again, we'll go to another star player here who's it's still setting at 30.5 for Joel Embiid, 30.5 points, but the juice has moved more towards minus 120 now.
Yeah, it's going to go up. So I think you want to grab that. I mean, he's been putting up points. He hit his over for me on Friday, which I'm grateful for. But he doesn't look great. He's not moving that well. But I just figure if he plays, he's going to get in a must-win situation. He's going to get 25 shots. And on an off night, he'll go 9 for 25 with a couple threes even, and then he'll get fouled a bunch. So he still has an opportunity to scrape that over. So I think that you got to take that 30.5. Obviously, if we're just going on pure season numbers, the way he was scoring this year, it's the easiest over in history. He's over 70% over based on his regular season. Unfortunately, it was only 39 games, but you know how it is. But people have his career playoff average is what, 9 below his regular season average. It's pretty ridiculous. That's usually because of injury that happens like right during the playoffs.
Yeah.
In this case, he's
these playing games hypothetically should feel like the hardest we should see these athletes try. It's like a game 7, like these games, these 7 series games, who knows who's going to try when, but in the play and do or die, I feel like this is when we should be getting the best from everyone for 4 quarters.
You would think. The player I'm really curious about in terms of odds, and I don't see them right now, is Caleb Martin, because he had such a good postseason run last year. And I don't know if that'll influence. So like on Odds Jam, I don't see Caleb Martin posted yet. I see Bam, I see Butler, and then Hero, but I don't see. So we might have to wait till Wednesday to see if Caleb Martin has something spicy there.
Yeah, and we got time on these 2 games, but nonetheless, still some good props to get ahead of. I don't see any more questions, but feel free to put them in the chat. I'll throw up the recap screen here in the meantime. Again, we'll certainly have more plays and picks for these playing games. Maybe make some NBA future type of picks later in the week as well. But any questions you don't get to right now, feel free to ask on Twitter, ask them tomorrow. Great thing is we got some shelf life here, which we haven't had for a while. So this should be very exciting stuff. With that, good luck with your bets tonight, and we will see you guys tomorrow.